That's one.
They seem to be winning this war.
Just so busy that I wouldn't have sister station.
Okay, I have 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this July 11th Shelby County Board meeting to order. We'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we come before you now in a moment of mourning. We are in need of a touch that only you can provide. Our community has been devastated, and we will feel the impact for a long time to come. We place our faith in the best and the only rightful place, in you. May you offer a place of peace for those most closely connected to tragedy. Scripture says that you work all things together for good for those that love you. I pray we see that. Amen.
Amen. Would you all remain standing, please, in a moment of silence? We pray for grace, mercy, and peace be to all those afflicted by the events of yesterday afternoon. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Clark Hanley.
Here.
Mark Bennett. Here. Teresa Bain. Here. Tim Brown. Carol Cole. Here. Julie Edwards. Here. Martha Bernhaber. Here. Clay Hardy.
Here.
Deb Keenan.
Here.
Annette Martin. Sean Marks.
Here.
Tad Mayhall.
Here.
Keith McCormick. Tim Morse. Lori Nelson. Here. Bobby Orman.
Here.
Sonny Ross. Mitchell Shuff.
Here.
Don Tate.
Yes, here.
Brett Wallace.
Here.
Jeremy Williams.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Now, seek a motion to approve the minutes of the June 13th meeting. A motion? Mike makes a motion to approve the meeting minutes. Is there a second? Second by Martha. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4 is discussion and vote to approve the appointment of Christy Otis to the County Board District 9 upon the recommendation of the Republican Senate Committee. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Chairman makes a motion, seconded by Lori. Any discussion?
Would you explain the process? So the central committee gets together and gives you a name, how does that work?
The recommendation by the chairman of the Central Committee.
Okay, that's because it just said the committee, so I just wasn't sure. I don't do politics, man, so I don't know.
Yeah. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. If you would come up and take your oath and be sworn in, please.
I state your name.
I, Christy Otis,
Having been appointed
having been appointed
to the office of
to the office of
Shelby County Board District 9
Shelby County Board District 9
in the county of Shelby,
in the county of Shelby,
in the state of Illinois,
in the state of Illinois,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Shelby County Board District 9
Shelby County Board District 9
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. I just need you to sign here for me.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is Heather Wade, probation. She's here for discussion and vote to approve an IGA with Kane County for juvenile detention services. You the floor.
Good evening. I'm here with my juvenile officer. We're requesting Shelby County entered into an intergovernmental agreement with Kane County. We have a lot of trouble housing minors when we need to detain them, and we found the only way to do it and guarantee that we have bed space is enter into this agreement. We provided the contract to the state's attorney. She has approved it. I just have them send it out in an email for everyone to look over, and I'll happily answer any questions if I can't. Rob Ryan along to do so.
Is there a motion to approve of the IGA with Kane County? Martha makes the motion. Is there a second? Second by Mark. Any discussion for Heather while she's here, or Ryan while she's here as well? Questions? I will say, when I first saw it, I was a little bit confused, and as I read it, it began to click, why do we have this IGA? So,
Well, we currently have 2 juveniles in detention right now, so
right.
last year we had 0, but right now, I think she spent about 4 hours in one day trying to find a bed for a juvenile. Every detention facility across the state was full, so I was working within the 4th Circuit. Montgomery County is also going to enter into a contract with Kane County. They're quite a distance, so we discussed it with the sheriff. It's the only way I can guarantee without putting the liability on the county. You can't house a minor in the jail. You can for certain reasons, but this is the safest place, and unfortunately it's far away, but it's the best we could get.
Have we done this before? I don't.
There was one with Madison County several years ago. We tried to do that again. Ryan spent quite a few hours trying to get that to happen as well, but they won't guarantee a bed even if we enter into the contract. Kane County is going to guarantee that if we have to detain a minor, they will place it for us. We will have to transport. All the transport expenses will fall on the sheriff still. And then we have the detention budget and the 2 line.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for Heather or Ryan while they're here? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have an original for you. It requires your signature.
Okay, do you have it with you?
Yeah. I'm actually not. Oh, yeah, we'll use what she has.
That'll work.
Thank you.
Item 6, discussion and vote to approve rescinding board action on 11/9/23 of declaring the 2012 Chevrolet Animal Control Truck with a VIN number of 1GNC NAP06CZ225377 as surplus equipment upon recommendation of the Public Safety Committee. Is there a motion on this rescission? Tad makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Julie makes a second. Discussion, please.
Yeah, this is from us, so I'm just gonna defer to Ms. Miller, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Just to discuss why I requested that we keep the truck. In my May updates to the Public Safety Committee, I requested that we keep this current truck that was previously planned for surplus. The new truck that we currently have, the 2023 Ford that Mr. Brands ordered for us in November of 2023, has been on site since November, but it's still awaiting the animal transport topper before it could be put into use. That topper was received and installed in mid-June. It is now at our building. However, it's still unable to be used for its purpose. We have to make additional modifications to that topper to make the truck and the topper that Mr. Brands ordered work for the job. The old truck has the capabilities to currently haul large dogs, let's say over 65 pounds, which we see primarily, and it's also the only one of the 2 trucks with 4-wheel drive. So to be able to function in the mud, ice, snow conditions that we work in, we need the 4-wheel drive option. The new truck topper sadly is unable to fit large dogs also. So that's requiring us to need the second truck in the instance where we need to pick up large dogs, which again is pretty often part of what we do. So in asking for this, realizing that it's an additional truck to keep that we weren't planning, I did a comparison on the original truck that Brad ordered in 2022 to the truck that Mr. Brands ordered for us in 2023. I was not in this position at that time, so I did a comparison just to give me a clear picture of the difference and why Brad chose the truck he needed. I went over this comparison sheet last week in the public safety meeting, and I believe Jessica sent it out to everyone ahead of this meeting. Yeah, correct. So if you looked at that, I compared the 2 trucks, and basically the very basic difference is the one needed for the job that Brad ordered is a work duty 3/4 ton truck, which is heavy enough to handle an animal transport unit for animal control. The current truck that we have is a light half-ton truck, which is not heavy enough to handle the fiberglass transport unit nor the road conditions, being that it's only a 2-wheel drive. Additionally, we only had a $15,000 budget for a unit, according to Mr. Brands, and the unit we really needed was $20,000. So I compared the 2 units on that sheet, and you can see the differeces in how they were designed. The unit that we preferred, that we wanted, that we needed, is a fiberglass unit built to last, very easy to clean, has a quarantine compartment for disease transmission, and most importantly, allows for the safety for the warden and the animals, including ramps to load the dogs that are unwilling to go into the truck, which is what we deal with daily. The current topper for the new truck that we have, we still have to lift animals over the truck bed to get them into cages. Additionally, the rear cages don't fit large dogs, which is why we need to keep our old truck also. We cannot modify that. We are planning to make some modifications to the topper, but we can't modify the size of it. So currently we have a new truck, but it's not really an upgrade from our 2012 truck when in reference to the ability to do the job and do it safely. I don't know if there's an option to change this truck. I know that in January when the topper was ordered, there was no options. So we definitely need to keep our old truck to work alongside the new truck at this time. That's all. Thank you. Yes.
So with the 2024 comparison, what you have on the 3/4 ton truck.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a state bid unit?
A what?
Is state bid unit?
State bid.
Right, so
Okay.
the 23 unit that you have that's sitting on the lot
Yeah.
is a state bid project. So to do the comparison, is that a state bid comparison? So in other words, you would forego the bidding process of finding a truck and finding a bid. So if you state bid it, it's already been bid. So you forego us having to bid it. You having to bid it.
Okay.
See what I mean?
I don't quite understand that. I'm sorry.
So,
On the state website,
sorry?
through the website, that already has all those things.
Right, so state bids out plethora of things. Tires, vehicles, other supplies that county governments or local government schools and other things might need. So you can, as a administrator of a department, you could go to the state bid website or wherever it's at, and you can find things that you need that are already been through a bidding process,
Sure,
and you can just purchase those as needed.
sure.
If you don't do that, then you have to go back to, I mean, I'm looking at a $60,000 price tag here. If you don't go through the state bidding process, then you have to bid it yourself,
Okay,
especially with the threshold that we're at.
right.
So, not disputing any of the information you've just given us, I'm just saying that the process has to be fulfilled. I'm going to go revert to Julie here.
In talking with Brad about this, I believe that it was at the time, this was bid out in 2018, I think.
Oh, that's well before.
2018, maybe,
20.
was it in 20 when they put the bid out? So it was bid out, and the only response that they got per the bidding process was from Leach Wilson. And, I mean, this was before my time on the board too, this is just how the thing unfolded. I think this $39,000 though included a $10,000 trade-in price for the current truck, or for the truck that they have operating now. And there was question about whether we could trade, I don't believe we could trade in county property. So while I understand that number, I think we would have to realistically add 10,000 to that 39,000.
Okay.
Because the 39,000 came from the $10,000 trade-in cost, if I'm remembering things right.
Right, so it was, if I remember right, it was bid in 20. That's when you couldn't hardly find a new piece of paint on the lot anyway. Almost 2 years later, we still hadn't received any vehicle. So at that point in time, you know, all the checks and balances the questions were being asked. Was it bid, where's the proof, et cetera, et cetera. What we got from Leach Wilson was a quote. And there is, to my knowledge, there wasn't any proof that there was actually, yes, there was a bid submission.
Yeah.
There was a bid submission. So it had been such a long period of time that everybody got lost in translation. But like I said, neither here nor there. What I'm saying is, what we have in front of us today, if you want to go with a heavier truck and you don't want to bid it yourself, go through the state bid program, and then we'll have to figure out what to do with the one we have.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yeah, and I didn't know there was any option, so I appreciate you telling me there might be.
yeah. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Well, the truck that they bought, the 2023, I'm sure that somebody gave somebody some specs to come up with this truck and the amount of money. So somebody would have to come up with specs for comparable to the truck that Brad wants, to look at the state bids to come up with the cost for that truck, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Because somebody decided that this 2023, he didn't need four-wheel drive, he didn't need a heavy duty, he didn't need an extended cab. Those things were determined for him. It isn't that he had input into any of it. So what he needs, what you need to do, I guess, since you are in that position that you're in now, you need to come up with specs of what would be suitable to do the job that he needs to do. And then possibly somebody can help her then with how you go to the state bids and stuff like that, to come up with something with costs and stuff. I'm sure they should be out there. I mean, they found this one and stuff, so the other one should be out there also.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you if there's different times of year where there's more inventory or not. I have no idea.
This one's over a year old. This one's 2 years old. This 2023, I'm sure there's 2025s out there now. So it's 2 years old and sitting there not being used. So I think that he needs to have the equipment that he needs to do his job and do his job safely.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Questions, comments? I'll go up here with Tad and I'll come back to you, Brett.
No, I just want to point out one more thing, which is at the bottom of this comparison sheet, which is where additional funds come from outside of budgeting is the funds generated through the dog wash. You know, the intent was for that dog wash to almost, not pay for the entire department, right? But between licensing and fees, and then the dog wash, it is a fairly self-sustaining entity. And so when we do look, you know, and I think she's got a little bit more leeway with this because of that fund, and the intent of that fund was to provide equipment for this, right? Not saying that she doesn't have to go through bidding processes, but she does have a fair amount of money in for this process and for this purpose.
And that's in a, is that in special animal control fee fund or something like that?
It's in the
Yeah,
animal
special.
control fund
Yeah.
across the board, yeah.
I'm gonna go back to Brett and I'll come back to you. Brett?
The old truck that has the topper on it, that
Yes.
seems to work fine. What's wrong with taking that topper and putting it on a different chassis?
It is pure stainless steel. It's very heavy. So the current truck, the new truck, only has one leaf spring. So
Yeah,
it's
I'm not
very
talking,
light.
that half ton ain't gonna do that.
Right, thank you.
But if you got a different, you've already got the topper, I'm gonna think, I would think the topper is gonna be more expensive than the chassis.
Right.
Could we just get a chassis and transfer, and keep the topper if it works now?
Possibly. Here's what, the current topper is 35 years old. It's been through 4 trucks. And it looks it. I mean, it's been well loved. So could it work? Yes. Would it be better to upgrade a little bit? I mean, it's.
I didn't know it was 35.
Yeah, it's 35 years old. I appreciate that, but it is. So we've loved it hard.
You're fine. Yeah.
And with that, okay, they're talking beds and chassis and all this stuff, so, but the current box that we have now fits in a bed, right?
Yes.
Would that fit onto a chassis without a bed?
No, it has to have a bed.
Yeah, so we can't, I don't think that would work anyway.
He's talking about the old topper.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Doesn't it fit into the bed of the
It's
truck?
just mounted
I think
inside
it
the bed.
comes off.
It
I
comes
mean,
off.
It's a
Yes.
removable topper.
Yeah, it's been through, like I said, 4 trucks.
But if it's 35 years old, I agree with her, it's
This-
kind of,
right.
so,
Right.
never mind that.
Yeah.
And then my second question was, okay, just for clarification, I'm not trying to stir any pots, but non-taxpayer money specifically to be used. Once it becomes, regardless of how it's raised, once it's collected, isn't it then county money?
Correct.
I'm only asking that question. I'm not trying to insinuate in any way that it's a problem.
Sure, but going back to the Animal Control Act, there is specific language regarding the Animal Control Fund.
Right, okay, I get that.
Nobody's
I'm just
discounting
wondering-
this county asset. We're saying is we didn't have to tax for that asset.
Sure, and it doesn't have to be like levied or dispersed through the budget. It's
It doesn't
just
have to be budgeted.
100% for
general.
animal control. Okay.
Don?
Point of order, aren't we just discussing whether we're removing the existing truck from?
Correct.
Yes.
Back to the discussion of the original motion to rescind the board action. Well, to rescind the board action, we kind of need to know the justification for the rescission. So, yes, we were getting off of the weeds. Any other discussion about the rescission of the action? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 7 is Michael Tappendorf, County Highway Engineer, with the highway report. Michael, I will give you the floor.
All right, thank you. So as far as resolutions, we don't have any this evening, taking it easy on you guys tonight. But as far as the usual, just items that my team and myself have completed. The maintenance team has completed oiling south of Trowbridge, oiling on the Finley Road, or preparation for the oil on the Finley Road on County Highway 3. Lakewood Township 50/50. They've done a lot of mowing around the county, filling the potholes again, delivering culverts to various townships, ditching on County Highway 40, maintenance around the department building, culvert installations on Finley Road, weed control and spraying, fixing down signs, rock hauling, and working on equipment. My front office team have been busy doing a lot of inspections. The Oconee Bridge, we call it, is in the southwest part of the county. It is progressing very well. I'll discuss that here in a little bit. There's a Prairie Township Bridge culvert inspection. That has basically been eating up 2 of my team members' time. It's been, they've been full-time basically on those 2 projects. They have continued ICC coordination for multiple railroads in the county. That's been an ongoing one for a long time. Continued planning on multiple drainage issues around the county, preliminary planning on a pavement preservation plan, coordination on insurance claims for damages, environmental survey requests for bridges and materials, finalizing the design and submittal of County Highway 3 plans and specifications, qualification-based selection process for engineering proposals for County Highway 40. As far as ongoing projects we have the County Highway 3 project, which is the Finley Road east of Finley. Programming has been released, and unfortunately we were not on the programming. IDOT did not select us for that money. It is money that we have in our account. It's not a grant, but IDOT is still withholding that from us for this time. So just construction is not looking to happen immediately. So to remedy it for the time being, we have prepped the road for oil and chip, which will be completed next week, and weather permitting. And the idea is that this will make the road manageable until full reconstruction will occur, and it is in our full interest to make that road fully reconstructed and paving it as soon as we can. We're still pressing forward to get it reconstructed as soon as possible. So there's also County Highway 5 project. It is a highway between Finley and Shelbyville. It's the oil and chip section. So there's concrete headed south out of Finley, and there's new asphalt that was just placed north out of Shelbyville. It's going to connect those with a new asphalt paved road. That bid last month, it came in at $1,494,000, which was $20,000 under the consultant engineering estimate that was completed. Looking for possible construction this fall or spring on that. So we don't have a deadline yet. County Highway 40 reconstruction, we're looking for consultants. We're in the process of doing qualification-based selection. Next month, I'll be working with my Road and Bridge Committee on doing that. It's a process for selecting engineers. County Highway 40 is on the very south part of the county, due north of Beecher City. There is a Prairie Bridge project. It is a project that is in Herburn. It is approximately 80 to 90% complete. It is a small culvert that got reconstructed. It is very near completion. We look for in the next few weeks for that to be open and operational. As discussed earlier, there is a bridge in Oconee Township. It is 2/3 complete. The bridge beams are set, back walls are poured. It is progressing very well. We still probably have 2 to 3 weeks of construction left before that will be open. Just estimating. There's another Oconee Bridge project about half a mile to the east, and it is waiting to be constructed until the other bridge is operational. We are still coordinating on multiple union Pacific Railroad crossings throughout the county. And bridge inspections are complete. We've done until this fall. We've inspected a lot of bridges, and I've become very familiar with most of our structures. So, once again, I just say we're still appreciative. Me and my team are appreciative of all the support from the community and the board. So, with that, I would answer any questions that you guys may have.
Questions for the engineer? Go ahead, please.
Can you elaborate why the funding on Highway 3 is being withheld?
Yeah, so the IDOT gets basically usually $12 million a year, even though we have money in account. We have money set aside. We have multiple millions of dollars set aside in account, but they are fully in charge of that money. I can't just go in and reach and grab it and do what I want to do with it. So IDOT basically regulates how that money is spent, and they only allow 12 million or 18 million, one of the two, I can't remember the exact figure offhand, but throughout the whole district, and this is a district of about 9 counties. So if you think about it, $18 million, whenever I'm asking for 2.5, it's a huge sum of money, and they just didn't have the money to allow us for this season. There's a large project in Coles County, approximately $4 million, that basically ate most of the budget up. So all those details to say that basically IDOT is in full control of that money, and we don't have another funding account that can reconstruct a $2.5 million project. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Kind of. It's complicated.
There's nothing specific, right? They didn't come to us and said because of this, you're not.
It is not because of this. I will elaborate. The other project, the County Highway 5 project, has no bearing whatsoever on that project. I even tried to see, okay, can I take that money and put it onto this other project? It was a quick no, and I mean, there is no funding account that IDOT will let me allocate the money to that project. I've tried. I've reached out to every person I can, and so we have done plans and everything. I've tried to push them to IDOT, letting them know that I am ready to construct as soon as possible, and that's I'm doing everything that I know to get it done. Is if I could do it tomorrow, I would do it tomorrow. But I've done everything I can to have it. So,
thank you.
Any other questions for the engineer? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, Scott McKee, zoning administrator. Couple different things that were taken from last month. We have a road use agreement, amendment to the fee schedule for communication tower, discussion of both on zoning variances. So with that, I will turn the floor over to Scott.
Okay, so did anybody have any questions about the transmission lines topic?
I think you need to spell out voltage instead of just saying generic transmission lines, because depending on which utility you deal with, they consider voltages different on transmission lines.
Okay.
Ameren, probably 34.5, 69 is considered sub-transmission, and anything above that would be transmission. I talked to somebody out here at the co-op, and they kind of go along the same thing. And I don't know if you put 69 kV and up, if that would do it, but I think you need to do some more research on what everybody considers a transmission line.
Not with the actual wattages, but I did consider that too, and you have the authority to amend this however you see fit if there is something that you would like to change.
I just think it should be spelled out.
So we could change that to transmission towers instead of transmission lines to make it clear that.
No, because everything's not a tower even.
Okay.
Steel poles aren't towers.
Right.
So I really think that it wouldn't be that hard to check with the local utility companies and ask them what they consider a transmission line as far as voltage.
Okay.
And then whatever the lowest one that they consider transmission line, use that as a base and up.
I definitely have some contacts at the co-op. I will reach out to them. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else in the transmission lines? Okay. Communication towers. The whole point behind the communication tower fee change up was to try and incentivize people allowing us to use those towers, essentially. Because it's quite expensive to put up a new tower, talking up to $5,000 sometimes. So basically, if they give us the right to use that tower for, like, for example, emergency services, maybe they would bite on that apple. But any questions on that?
Has there been any progress on any of all the discussions about the towers and the money and stuff, the 911 stuff? Is there any updates on that?
Yes. Yeah, there is, and can we get into that in another portion?
Okay.
Yeah. So is there a motion to approve the amendment to the fee schedule for communication towers? Martha makes a motion. Is there a second? Sean seconds the motion. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries to amend the fee schedule for the communication towers. And then the last one is the zoning variance on the agenda.
All right. Any questions on the variance?
Could you just give a quick explanation on the variance?
So this
what
is
a variance is and what this is.
So a variance is the ability to legally say that, you know, we're changing the setback lines or anything that regarding zoning. So we can grant a variance if we find that's in particular hardship for the person applying for it. In this case, the parcel in question is only 50 feet wide, and the gentleman wants to build a garage on it, but because it's zoned as agricultural, he can't build 20 feet towards the setback lines on either side of that property. So he only has 10 feet to actually build anything on, which obviously is a hardship in my consideration. So the Zoning Board of Appeals did meet and approved this variance and recommended that you guys adopt it.
The variance would allow to how many feet to the line?
6. So 6, just like it would. So the read-ahead material that I provided all of you, all of the parcels to the east of that are zoned as single-family residence, and that is the same setbacks that they are set to, is 6 feet on either side. So basically, you just make it fair for the individual.
Is there a motion to approve of the zoning variance?
Yes.
Made by Jeremy, second by Mark. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the last thing, was the, did you open with the road use agreement?
Yes,
okay.
That was the transmission lines.
Okay, very good. Okay. Item 9, discussion and vote to approve the increases in salaries to the state's attorney, public defender, and the sheriff based on notice of annual salary reimbursement COLA from the Department of Revenue, quoting 55 ILCS 5/3/4007. Raises are retroactive to July 1st, 2024. The state's attorney's salary would be $160.9973. The public defender would be $144.8976. And the sheriff would be $128.079.78. Is there a motion to approve the increases? Martha makes a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Don. I'll open up discussion with these are statutory changes, so it's a matter of formality for the board to change these things. So it's rubber stamp we've done every year. And, sorry, go ahead.
On one of these P-tax for the sheriff, not that I don't believe he's worth $144,000, but I think they took the public defender monies and put that on the sheriff's one. So I noticed that when reviewing these, I would like to pay the sheriff $144,000 more than that. Yeah, but on the actual P-tax forms, they put 144,000 on the public defender and the sheriff.
That is correct. We will amend those and change them to what the
Okay,
agenda says.
that's fine.
Yep. So, I'll make a motion to amend the motion. No, I won't. It's listed correctly on the agenda. The motion is correct. These are incorrect. We'll fix that. And we'll go on.
No problem. I just didn't want somebody to sign that.
Very good.
Thanks.
Done.
Isn't this money, if we accept the salaries at this, isn't it partially refunded from the state? Is that, am I thinking that wrong? Is had a discussion about this last year or 2 years ago or something?
Right. I know the state's attorney is 70-ish% funded through the state. The public defender, I believe, is
State's attorneys, all, and the other two are like 66 and a third, or 66 and 2/3 reimbursed.
Okay.
so there is, yes, there is reimbursement for those offices. Any other discussion? Comments, questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Clark Hamlin,
Yes.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bang,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaver,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Doug Keenan,
Yes.
Sean Marks,
Yes.
Tad Bainhall,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
Bobby Mormon,
Yes.
Christy Otis,
Yes.
Mitchell Sheff,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brent Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item 10 is discussion and vote to approve the allocation of $1.25 million in ARPA funds to the courthouse window project. Is there a motion? Don makes the motion. Is there a second? I had Martha hand it. Sorry, Lori. We have a motion by Don, a second by Martha. Is there any discussion?
Will this cover the cost then of the project?
Yeah, I thought the sheriff was downstairs, but
Yeah, so we're just under the total project, looking at just under $1 million. The extra 250 is to cover any additional on-site abatement that they're not, so it's a contingency, just in case they do get here and find additional abatement that they weren't, but they don't expect it, so.
any other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Hamlin,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Bain,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fernhaver,
Yes.
Hardy,
Yes.
Keenan,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Bainhall,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Orman,
Yes.
Otis,
Yes.
Sheff,
Yeah.
Tate,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item 11 is discussion and vote to approve payment of the first tax installment for parcel 1812-03-00-100-001 for 747.7, parcel 182-0401-200-001 for 2800.09 for a sum of $35.50.55. Is there a motion? Teresa makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Carol. Questions, comments?
Can you tell us what these parcels are?
Yes,
Please.
Go ahead.
I was going to explain why I feel like we need to pay these taxes. The first parcel, the 1810000100001 is the 80 acres, and the other one is the 156 acres. So there's two different parcels, and we get 200 or two different taxing bills for this.
So it's the farm grant?
It's the farm grant.
Thank you.
Yes. And so when the taxes are paid, the school, for the half, for the first installment, the schools will get $2,060.66. The school's IRMF will be 107.27. Shelby County gets 433.13. Shelby County's IMRF gets 131.62. Rose Township gets 116.36. Rose Roads gets 193.04. The fire department gets 192.88. Lakeland College 305.14, and then there's a couple of little things. So if we don't pay the taxes, they don't get their tax money. You know, the schools, to begin with, are, when both parcels are paid for, the school will end up getting $4,100. I feel like it's our duty as a board to make sure that we're supporting all of these people with this tax money. I'm done.
Right, okay. So, is there any listing on there for Stu Strauss School?
This is Shelbyville Schools. It says Shelbyville Unit 4. Because they're both in Rose Township.
Right.
Both parcels are in Rose Township.
So I can assume that there's nothing in there for Finley, Windsor,
No, just Shelbyville schools.
Dana? Okay.
If the farm ground was in that area, then it would probably be, or, you know, if it was in Strasburg. I mean, I'm just guessing. I'm not a
Right.
tax person.
The reason I bring that up is because when I pay my tax bill, my tax dollars go into the money you're talking about paying the taxes with. And I don't live in that district. I don't live in Rose Township. And the tax bill that I pay goes into my taxing districts. So I have a problem paying the taxes in somebody else's taxing district that I don't live in. Am I justified in that theory of thought? This has been the argument from word go.
I would think that everybody's tax bill would be like that.
It goes into their taxing district.
I've not seen all the tax bills, so I don't know.
Marshall.
My concern with taking already collected taxpayer dollars to then paying another tax is one, we're a tax exempt entity. The Board of Review sent paperwork to the state, to the Department of Revenue. It was not considered tax exempt at that time. And as Bobby said, it's double taxation. Everybody's taxed, it goes into the fund. Yes, those taxes that we all pay are divvied out amongst the various taxing bodies, but then what's left is in the general fund, and that's what we're taking to then in turn pay this if we agree to do this, and that's the double taxation. And I'm 100% with Bobby. This is not appropriate.
Go ahead.
I always felt like last year our wheat brought $117,000. That was not taxpayer money. That was from the sale of the crop. Granted, it was from the sale of the crop. Somebody's shaking their head, no it wasn't, but it was. So you take that $117,000 and we have inputs, that money goes into the general fund. It's not taxpayer money. It's money that we sold the crop for.
Right.
We can't put it in a special place.
You're correct.
We have a budget that calls for paying the taxes. But that isn't money that I paid. I didn't pay for the crop. To me,
Yes, you
I mean,
did.
that's how I feel.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Every one of us in the room paid for that.
We all bought wheat?
You're correct.
Okay.
Every one of us in the room, everyone in the county that pays a tax bill, paid for that crop going in.
Not this year.
Not this year. It's not cost anybody anything this year.
Everything's free.
So.
Mr. Chairman.
And I can also say one other thing, because the taxes were late last year, it cost the person who paid them $1,100 more, which seems totally ridiculous. Why would you want to pay more fees and fines because you don't pay on time? If everybody in the whole county did that, nobody'd be getting any tax dollars. Nobody paid their taxes.
So through
It
the
seems
process,
like common sense to me, but
right, so through the process and explanation I just gave, that is why governmental property is all tax exempt. Purchases and property. So, you know, if a governmental agency goes out and buys a semi-load of paper, it should be tax exempt. Sales tax exempt because that's part of the governmental agency. So if they're tax exempt from the purchase, and we're tax exempt from property taxes, then it goes back to, that's why we don't pay taxes. Jeremy.
Yeah, you brought up a taxation without representation point, because neither you nor I have a single constituent that will gain the benefit from paying these taxes that hasn't already paid taxes in there. And I think Ms. Fernhaber brought up a double taxation point. All of those taxing districts that were read off, the constituents within those taxing districts have already or are in the process of paying their taxes. Some of those taxes came to the county, and we would use that money to pay these taxes. So we're using tax money that's already been paid to pay taxes. It's a tax on a tax, so it's a double tax. We're asking people to have their money go to the same place a second time. It's a double taxation, and that's not appropriate. And to the point that you made, like I said, I don't have a constituent in Rose Township. I have some constituents in Shelbyville School District and Shelbyville Fire Protection District, but I don't have in Rose Township. So my constituents' tax money shouldn't be going to Rose Township. And so because of that, I'm not gonna be able to be in favor of this.
Girl.
there was about $90,000 worth of tax money, and it was my tax money that was paid out to two different people in the state's attorney's office. I didn't go for that either.
That's right, that's right.
That's everybody's tax money. And what good did it do us? Nothing. We didn't get anything for that. That $90,000, nothing. That $12,500, what did that person do? Absolutely nothing. We didn't get anything in return. We have farm ground that we need to take care of, and this county's not taking care of it. But we can just throw money away for nothing, and hey, it's okay. Good job. I'm sorry.
Martha.
We voted to sell the farm. When the farm's sold, it'll be back on the tax rolls.
Yeah, well, I think it's sold.
Any other questions, comments on tax? Julie?
I don't know where Mrs. Woolery would, okay, I'd like to maybe, I don't want to put her on the spot, but I would like a legal opinion on if we are obligated to pay the taxes or not.
We got one from the Department of Revenue.
I get it, but I personally, I don't think that we should pay the taxes, because who's going to collect? I mean, are we going to, I mean, we're taxing ourselves, and it's kind of redundant, but if our attorney says that we are legally obligated to pay, then I will vote to pay the taxes.
Do you think it's fair not to give the schools their money? Not to give the fire department? I mean, we got a
Please don't put
fireman
that
right
on me,
here.
because that's not, I would support the schools in any way, and I pay my taxes to support the schools. And that's not my thing is, I don't feel like we should be, yes, we're distributing money, and that's great. However, we should not be paying those taxes in the first place.
So, Julie, let me kind of compound on what you're saying. So out of a roughly $30 to $35 million intake annually, the Treasury disperses all but about, give or take, 5 to 7 million to all the taxing districts that we have mentioned, school districts and highway districts, fire protection districts, et cetera, on down the line, libraries, et cetera. That is a statutory duty of the office to disperse those as recommended by law as taxing districts. I would challenge anyone in this room to find where the county board can authorize more funds to be sent to those taxing districts than what is authorized by law.
I think that we have a state's attorney, and I'm with Julie. I think that we should give her opinion. I don't think you should put her on the spot tonight if she
Well,
wasn't notified ahead of time.
Right.
But to let her give an opinion.
But and I'm 100% of that, so I don't know, do we table this till we get a legal opinion?
We can.
April, September.
Then I've motioned to table.
August 6th is the first.
I think the prior state's attorney requested an AG opinion on whether or not we can legally pay the taxes. I don't know if we can look into that since he's no longer, but it might be worth looking into.
I'm listening and recognizing it. So what the treasurer said is prior state's attorney has possibly requested an AG opinion. It would be imperative for the current state's attorney to follow up and see if that request was made and find out what the response was.
I think that's only fair because I think we requested other information from him and we didn't get feedback. So maybe our state's attorney now can look into this and find out and give us an opinion next board meeting.
On the taxing issue?
Yes.
I apologize, Ruth, I didn't mean to call you out when you weren't in the room, but I said that I would prefer to hold my vote till I have a legal opinion.
That's fair. And I'm certainly by no means a tax expert, so I'm happy to do the research and get you an opinion.
So is there a motion on the floor?
I made a motion to table till we have pending.
Motion by Julie to table, seconded by Sean. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
1 no. Motion carries to table. Item 12, discussion and vote to approve the closed meeting minutes recordings from January 12th, 2023 and March 14th, 2024, closed session upon recommendation of legislative committee. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion.
Jeremy makes the motion to open the closed session.
Yes, and if I could get a second, I'll correct something in there.
Second by Martha. Go ahead, Jeremy, you have the floor.
So this did not come from the legislative committee. Legislative reviewed all of the minutes of all of the sessions currently held closed by the board. We did so in June, and we decided to wait to put something on the full board agenda until I got word back from the state's attorney on which sessions might be able to be released and which should remain closed. On Monday, I think Monday, I heard back, and she recommended the January 12th, 23 and the March 14th, 24, which are listed here on the agenda, that those could be opened. And so since legislative met last Tuesday and I heard back this Monday, I went ahead and put this on the agenda. This did not come from the committee.
Okay.
My apologies for any miscommunication.
But there was review.
There was review by both the committee in June and the state's attorney.
May I ask Jeremy a question?
Go ahead.
It was my understanding those were the only two that were sent to me for review. Were there others that were sent to me for review?
I think there were others. Let's analyze whether there were others later. Those are the two that I heard back from.
That have been approved.
Okay, so a motion and a second on the floor. Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of opening the closed minutes, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 13 is discussion and vote to approve a request for Benford Brown CPAs to ascertain whether or not there are any funds in the State's Attorney's Office during Hanley's time of office to audit and report back to the Board Chairman and Legislative Chairman within 45 days upon recommendation by the Legislative Committee. Motion by Jeremy, is there a second? Second by Martha. Any discussion, questions? Seems pretty straightforward. Cheryl?
I'd like to make an amendment to this, that we do have an audit, but that Bedford and Brown does not do it. We find someone else to do it.
That's not a part of what this motion's for.
It says to reprove a
It's an
request for
opinion,
Bedford
it's to
and
get an
Brown.
opinion from them as to whether or not there's even anything to audit.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I might could help clarify. Yeah, this item is not to have any particular auditor perform the audit. No, it's to ascertain whether or not there are any funds in the state's attorney's office during that time to audit. So the reason for that was I contacted the chairman, the state's attorney, the treasurer, the circuit judge, the circuit clerk. I think that was it. I might be missing. And the county clerk, yes, I'm sorry. I contacted many people to see if they had knowledge of any funds that could be audited that were managed by the department head in the office during the time in question. And I didn't get anything, I didn't get any positive indications back, but I did receive opinion that the funds in the budget are at the discretion of the department head, and so they might count as funds to audit. And so legislative decided, since we have a current auditor, and this is just their judgment as to whether or not, I shouldn't say judgment because it's based on evidence, but their decision based on evidence, if there are any funds to audit. That's all this is. They're going to look into it, find if there is anything to audit, and they will tell us yes or no within 45 days. And we put that in there, the 45 days, we put that in there because the 22 audit is late, very late. And so they're going to tell us whether or not there's anything to audit. At that point, the board could have any auditor, could request any auditor to do it. This is not saying that Bedford and Brown is going to do the audit. And since they have a lot of documentation from that office already, they are in prime position to tell us very quickly and definitively if there is anything there to audit.
So, just to put a delineation of funds that, to separate the funds that are managed by the board and budget versus funds that may not be managed by the board and budget. For example, I do believe the circuit clerk has a specific fund in their office that is managed in and out of their office, and that's why they get a single audit every year individually. So that is a case in point of the separation of a budgeted fund versus an individual office fund. So anyway, just trying to maybe clear the water there, Tad.
So I don't think anybody would argue that we have a responsibility to make sure we avoid conflict of interest, correct? Like we should have an obligation to make sure there's no conflicts of interest with this. And so with these two court cases that are sitting in front of me that involve the former state's attorney and a founding member of that firm where he represented them, there's a lot of conflict of interest here. And I don't think they should have any involvement in making a decision on that office and his funds based on he represented members of that firm. I've got it here if anybody wants it.
I would contend though, the integrity of an auditor rises above. I've heard it from many auditors throughout the years that the integrity part of being an auditing firm is one of the things that they hold near and dear to. So if they reported something that is incorrect or foul, and it was proven, they could be held highly accountable.
So why should we put ourselves in a position where we have a settlement of February 2023 where he was representing this firm, we shouldn't even come close to this. This was just before he was hired here, that he had represented these folks. We shouldn't even come close to this.
Okay, so let me go back to an opinion based on a person versus an office. We're asking about an office. And this is where we get hung up in the weeds so far often is we don't like this officer, we don't like that officer. It's not about the officer, it's about the office itself. So if they would give an opinion that says, oh no, there's nothing to see here because there's no funds, and it was because they were protecting the officer, they could be held highly accountable for that. They have no bearing on who was in that office. Matter of fact, no one should have any bearing on who was in the office. It's a function of if the office should be audited.
But by virtue of the fact that he was in the office, is the conflict. So if I hear you right, you don't see a conflict of interest here by hiring a firm that was within the same month represented by the person who held that office. You don't see any conflict there.
Right, because I don't know who's doing our audit versus who he represented because there's multiple people in that firm. And I don't
It's
know
one of the managing founders, Ms. Bedford.
Okay. And she's not involved with our audit.
She's involved with the firm. She's a managing partner in the firm. Again, I just want to go on the record. It's a pretty significant conflict of interest.
Teresa.
And what he just said, why don't we just get a different auditor? Why would we want to, number one, these people are how far behind on the 22 audit? Why would we throw them more work, because we already threw them the audit for the dive team and stuff? Why don't we hire somebody that might get this done? And if it's not that big a deal, it shouldn't take very long. And I know that there's other auditors out there that could do this.
Right, and it's a simple pointed question with a pretty simple pointed answer. It's a yes or no answer. Julie.
If we're asking the question about the office, I mean, is that a auditing question or is that a legal question? Again, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, are those funds or lack of funds, because to our knowledge, there are no funds controlled by the state's attorney other than the budget. So does that even need to go to an auditor to find out an answer?
Hey, Julie, ask her.
Well, I mean,
she's sitting there.
Again, then is that a conflict of interest? Because I'm asking her who is in the office now, not that I.
Well, like I said, it shouldn't, the response
You're
shouldn't
right.
matter because.
Does the
attorney,
state's attorney's office have funds that need to be budgeted? Or that need to be audited when the parties change?
I believe statutorily, yes.
Okay.
I also want to point out that throughout a lot of different conversations about a lot of different things, we have compared basically all the money that's in the budget, even though it's allocated to certain departments, it's still county taxpayer money. So the head of that office has the discretion to funnel that money where they need it. For example, I've been told that I can pull money from different line items as long as I don't go over the bottom line, right? So that's my discretion. To me, that sounds like discretion to control county money, taxpayer funds.
So then in your opinion, do you think that office needs a forensic audit?
I don't have an opinion as to whether it's supposed to be a forensic audit versus a simple audit. But I believe that the statute requires that once there's turnover, an audit has to be done.
Okay. That was what I was under the impression too, for any
department. And sorry, I just have one more comment to make. As far as the potential conflict goes, I think it's, again, my opinion, but I think it's really important to even avoid the appearance of impropriety. And I think TAB has shown a very specific conflict of interest between the auditing firm and the head of the office who was controlling those funds during a period of time that I don't think should be ignored. But again,
even if we're not asking them to do the audit, just to look into the validity of
I think it's the same thing. I do.
Okay, back to the floor. Ted, you have a comment?
I mean, since we're talking about their firm, I went through their site. I don't see anything regarding any sort of government knowledge whatsoever. Everything they promote is accounting, tax preparation, as well as small, medium, and large size, fast-growing companies. They talk about when they're ready to take your company from good to great. They talk about businesses, and then from small to large businesses. There's nothing in here under their consulting, forensic accounting, auditing. There's nothing in here that discusses any sort of qualifications to be even working in government. And we've had this discussion in here where we can't pick and choose when we say that, well, it's okay because they're auditors, right? Because we've heard others that you can't compare a business to government, right? Government accounting is different than business. And so where's their experience, knowledge? Because nothing on their site indicates any sort of governmental involvement ever.
So, do you have a list of Benford's credentials?
I have what they're promoting as their credentials.
No, all the letters behind her name. So one of them is a MGA, which is a bachelor's or master's in governmental accounting. So her specifically has gone to school and in training and has a master's in governmental accounting. So that is on her right in her credentials. And she is a partner in the firm.
Have we got an estimate on how much this pre-audit, I guess you call it pre-audit, I don't know what you call it, how much it's actually going to cost?
This question?
Huh?
This question that we're going to ask?
Well, we're asking Benford and Brown to perform, or to look into if there's funds that need to be audited, how much is that going to cost the county taxpayers?
Like I said, it's a pretty simple forward question. I mean, are they aware of funds? Because they currently have the access. I mean,
right,
honestly.
But if we are statutorily required to audit like we did in the past,
right?
How come we're not just going ahead and just doing the audit?
That's a good question.
Because the question became, is there actually anything to audit?
Yeah. How come we audit?
That's what it kind of started going down to. I'm going to revert back to Mark. He called the vote.
No.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor.
And what are we voting? Be clear about how we're voting. What is the vote for?
This is to basically to request, directing me to request if there are any funds to be audited in the state's attorney's office.
You're also requesting Bedford and Brown to do it.
Right. They're not doing anything, they're just offering information.
Well, since we're not spending money, but we are talking about money, if we could make this a roll call vote, that'd be great.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Amling,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Bain,
No.
Cole,
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fernhaber,
Yes.
Hardy,
No.
Keenan,
Yes.
Marks,
No.
Mayhaw,
No.
Nelson,
Yes.
Orman,
Yes.
Otis,
Yes.
Shuff,
No.
Tate,
Yes.
Wallace,
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 10 ayes, 7 nays.
Motion carries. I will be in contact with Benford ASAP.
But clearly that's got a 45-day window because we know that things,
Please tell me that, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, please add that to the
Kindly.
request.
Make a call, you can ask our audit.
Yeah.
So, item 14 is discussion and vote to approve timekeeping policy on recommendation of the legislative committee. It was tabled June 13th by motion by Edwards. Julie, did you offer to take that off the table?
No, because my vote hasn't changed.
Somebody
Am I
else need to
required,
take it
am I
off the table?
required to,
I think anyone can take something off the table if I remember correctly.
is there a motion to take it off the table? And Martin makes a motion to remove from the table. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second by Jeremy. All in favor of removing from the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
Noes, please raise your hand. 4. Carol, Teresa, Tad, and Julie. Motion to untable passes, so we'll move on to a motion to approve timekeeping. Is there a motion? Martha approves timekeeping policy. Jeremy seconds the motion. Is there any discussion on this? Tad.
So last time I asked, the folks that gave us offer help for all of our HR issues, did they take a look at this policy?
Yes.
So they helped write it? We have that in writing, right? We have somebody from that department that said, good to go, this is the best product we have available.
We have emails from Sermon that they have reviewed this, they made recommendations, those recommendations were implemented in the policy that the legislative committee reviewed and passed, yes.
Because it looks like the old one, so just asking. And then we have a state's attorney opinion on this, which then conflicts with this. And there's an awful lot of challenges within our departments about this way this is going, right? I mean, my email box is full on a daily basis between department heads and just the challenges they have with this timekeeping. And to put them in a situation to where we're going to hold out pay when a system is down, not working properly, and we can't make adjustments to it, doesn't seem to be very fair. That's not a fair policy. Like we shouldn't be withholding pay for our employees because the system is down for 3 or 4 days in a row and they can't get back on a timely basis. What if that happens to be timed up to the day the payroll closes out and it's still down, right? So there's no exceptions in this policy to allow for additional payroll submissions. We don't have that flexibility in here, and when a line is drawn in the sand, that if there's nothing in, there's nothing out, and we're not going to pay people, well, then we have some serious issues.
So the issues of the system being down is a temporary problem. It is a power outage, server glitch, whatever you'll call it.
They're consistent problems with all due respect. They're consistent problems.
There are also problems that are remedied within the, sorry? There are also problems that are remedied through the the software in the program that even if the system is online, it's still saving the data that is inputted by the employee. So that data is still there, and then when it comes back online, then it is dispersed wherever it goes. The issue of changing timing allocation for different funds and whatnot is 100% achievable. We've had conversations with other counties that say they do it all the time. And ultimately, this system is a uniform system across the county that it takes risk out of the equation when it comes to who did what, when, and how. There's no question. There's an electronic signature on everything. So when it comes to mitigating risk, the electronic timekeeping system is bar none the best option to go. A piece of paper can be erased, whiteouted, et cetera, and it is up to the integrity of everybody involved to hold themselves all accountable. Whereas an electronic timekeeping system, there is no question, there is a timestamp, and it can be checked, and even through electronics forensic team could really dig in and tell a lot of the details that even just a simple, what we can see in the payroll office. The other issue is, I just went through the uniformity across the county. We don't have 3 different ways of submitting payroll, and none of it's efficient. So, I had other hands up here somewhere. Martha.
So this has been said many times in the legislative committee meetings, but the system will only work properly if people get into it on a daily basis. So if you wait until a full 2 weeks has been entered and then you try to go in and make corrections, it is incredibly difficult. If you go in on a daily basis, take 5 to 10 minutes, check a box, employees check a box that their time is good, they're checking that they agree that's the time they worked. It goes to the supervisor, administrator, whoever, they check it. If you're doing that on a daily basis, every other day basis, then you get to the end of a pay period and it should be bam, done. The issue is that, and the departments and the administrators that are doing that are not having issues. They're not having issues. Those that are not doing that are having the issues, and it's been explained to them that that's what needs to be done. There's been a comment made that we as a board do not have the right to tell any department that they need to do this. I'm going to refer back to the forensic audit of the Sheriff's Department, where the forensic auditor said that in its simplest form, the payroll function could be summarized as taking hours a person worked, multiplied by a rate of pay, then subtracting deductions to arrive at net pay. We found errors in each portion of that function. The level of problems and inconsistencies should be alarming to the county, and steps should be taken to mitigate the financial risk that your inadequate policies and procedures pose to the department, county, and staff. Prior board did not take any action. This board is taking action to try to protect the employee, the supervisor, department head, the county board, and the taxpayers. This is being done to protect everybody because it's information in, and then it's not hand calculations, it's not spreadsheets, it's not whiteout. I mean, on finance, and you've seen it, Tad, when we very first joined the finance committee, we saw payroll sheets, handwritten payroll sheets where something was whited out, moved here, whited out, moved there, and that puts everybody at risk. The AFSCME contract states in Article 2 under the management rights, that the employer, the co-employer's employer, have the right to direct all operations of the county, to maintain efficiency of county operations, to take whatever action is necessary to comply with state and federal law. I would say that the labor laws, state labor laws and federal labor laws, it would fall into that line right there. To introduce new or improved methods, to change existing methods or facilities. So the FOP contract under Article 4, under management rights, among the rights retained by the employers, the right to plan, direct, and control all the operations and services of the employer, to determine its policies, budget, and operations, to determine the manner in which the functions shall be performed, the direction of its working forces, to make and enforce reasonable rules and regulations, to change or eliminate existing methods, equipment, or facilities, to introduce new methods of operations. I think it is 100% well within the right of this board to implement electronic timekeeping policy to assure that the payroll that is being processed and paid out of the taxpayer dollars is true and accurate.
Teresa.
After saying all that, there are still people that are not being paid correctly under the FOP contract. There was one deputy that was short 3 pay periods ago because the timekeeping system was down for 3 days. He was short multiple, over $1,000. Okay?
I do believe all that's been rectified.
No, it hasn't.
Yes, it is.
No. I'm not arguing with you, and you're not part of this discussion.
I'm very much
Well,
part of this discussion.
I'm going to revert to the person who paid it.
I'm
In
going to
respect
tell you,
to, when I say it's been paid, then there's the individual that knows it was paid.
I'm going to tell you it has not been paid. I'm going to tell you that there are, I think, several employees this last pay period, and one of my questions is, last Friday these employees were given checks. The end of the pay period, they were given their checks last Friday. Why is it when you have that drop dead date, it's 2 to 3 days later that you get a report to the department heads on the payroll? I would think that this system, if it's so great and wonderful, that the day that they get paid, there's a report kicked out that can go to all the department heads so they can check the payroll themselves. I sat through that legislative meeting this last time, and I don't understand why that there's such a refusal to have somebody from this company come and sit down and try to figure out how they can make this system work. I think the software is not capable of doing some of the things that it needs to do. There's so many variables on the FOP part of it, as far as their pay and their options and everything else. The overtime, the shift differential, do they want to bank their time, their comp time, do they want to be paid for it, and all that. I think that there's a lot more than somebody that comes in and works 7 to 3:30 and goes home. They clock in, they clock out, they clock in, they clock out, they go home. There's a lot more to it. And I don't understand why there's such a resistance to try to get people here, to try to make this work. We've spent a lot of money on this system. And if it'll work, get somebody here and have them sit down. And if it's somebody doing something wrong, show them what they're doing wrong. Nobody wants to argue. Everybody wants people to get paid what they need to get paid. People come to work and they expect to get a paycheck, and they expect it to be right.
Absolutely. So just real quick points to make. Daily updating, if there's that many different variances within pay types and record keeping, then whatever department head that is, that person individually or a designated administrator within the office needs to be staying on top of it. That way it's not a burden at the end. And then there was a second point that you made and I've lost it. Go back to Martha.
So back to not understanding the resistance. As somebody that started their very first job at 16 and clocked in and a clock, I don't understand the resistance to using a time clock at all. In regards to the sheriff's department, as I understand it, there are 3 administrators over there. You've got dispatch, you've got corrections, and you've got the deputies. The administrators that are handling dispatch and corrections are having absolutely no problems. It's whoever's administering the deputies. I believe corrections has the same number of potential pays, comp time, holiday time not worked, holiday time work, I mean, all of that stuff. So if there are 2 administrators out of 3 that can figure it out, I think that it's not a system issue, it's a training issue, I'll give you that. Brian agreed at the legislative committee meeting not Tuesday, 2 days ago, but the Tuesday prior, Brian agreed in that meeting to sit down with Erica, the 2 of them, and work through that. That's what he agreed to do. Has he done it?
We attempted to.
He attempted to sit down with Erica?
No. Yes.
No.
So, Martha, back to the floor. So back to the training part of it. The training was done in November of 22, I believe it was, where there was 3 days where CIC was here for training.
How many days?
I believe there's 3 days.
3 different opportunities. 2 days. Okay, I'm just listening.
Yeah, so training was offered. I don't know how much participation was given, but beyond that, there were days offered. I can tell Heather wants to ask a question, so I'm going to address Heather.
There were 2 days. It was very quick, it was online. I have been requesting training and additional training since May, and I'm still requesting that. I have very good working relationship with the treasurer's office. They assist me. I only have 1 employee that uses the time clock because we are paid by the state. But the training is very necessary before you do anything or make any movements, and make sure everybody's on the same page. That's my only thing I want to say.
Brent back here.
Michael Tappendorf, the county engineer, is having no problems. All the employees out there know if they want work or comp time, they push the button comp time. I mean, I agree that it sounds like a training issue, but I've seen an email where he's sent out to everybody, all the department heads and stuff, that he's willing to help this time clock issue because they have no issues out there. Now, I understand the variances and stuff, but somebody, if it's my paycheck, I'm gonna make sure it's right before it goes anywhere. And from the way I understand the time clock, it'll tell you can punch exactly where you want your time to go, your comp time, vacation time, and all that. It's on that. You can just press it. And the most senior guy out at the county highway knows nothing. He'll tell you, I don't even know how to turn a computer on. He's the best one out there that does his time because he's been shown how to do it. And it's just a matter of touching where you want your time to go. And I don't know about the deputies and all that, but if I was a deputy or any employee punching the time clock, I'd make sure my time was right. I'd make sure that if I wanted my comp time, I'd get comp time or vacation time, I'd push them. And if they're not trained, and if they don't know how to work this time clock, yeah, we need some training, but I just don't understand. We're in the 2000s here, and I punched the time clock back in the 80s, you know, and never had any problem. If I did, I went to HR, and they'd take care of it. So, you know, I do think we need some training, but any of the department heads that don't understand this time clock, Michael Tappendorf is more than willing to work with you and show you how to work the time clock. I mean,
Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Increased training efforts were, for lack of a better term or phrase, were part of the agreement that legislative came to last Tuesday when it brought this policy to tonight's board meeting. And I spoke with the treasurer. It might have been Tuesday, I don't remember for sure, but she had already reached out to someone at CIC to get a cost on what it would be if they came here and did some additional training. I think that's correct.
They won't come, we Zoom, but what an hourly rate would be for them to Zoom in and show.
But they'll do training. It'll be Zoom, but they'll do training. So that was agreed to last Tuesday night in legislative. That's part of this. I was hoping to say that earlier in the discussion, but that is a need. I agree completely with everyone who said that, the additional training. And the reason I think it's important right now is because as people have used the clocks and the TCP, the online component, they have developed questions that they didn't have in the initial training. And so I think it's really important to go ahead and if it costs something to get some training, I'm going to want to know how much. I don't want to write a blank check, but I think that additional training is really, really important. And that was part of this, part of the legislative discussion last week. So I sat down with the sheriff, I think the day of last month's regularly scheduled full board meeting, and I asked if he had reached out to Michael, the county highway engineer, because they're using this thing swimmingly. And he said, I think he said he had emailed or called just a couple of quick questions here and there. So it's not that there's been a complete lack of communication, but they haven't gotten together as was originally suggested. And I went out there with Julie and with Tim, the chair of the Road Bridge Committee, and we discussed with Michael and Wendy what's working so well. We did that several months ago. And that's when I point blank asked Michael, I said, this is going so well for you guys. Would you be willing and able to help other departments that may be struggling a little bit? And he said, absolutely he would. And I don't think anybody has really reached out in any significant way and asked for him to either come and help or to host them and he can show them what's working so well, because I really think it's a workflow issue that some are having. Like Ms. Vernhaber said, going into the system just a few minutes a day will take care of a lot of problems. But when you try to do 2 weeks worth of edits or amendments or adjustments or whatever you want to call them, and you try to do them on the morning payroll is due, that really gives you a time crunch that could compound your error. And just doing a few minutes a day will take care of a lot of problems. So I just wanted to throw all that out there. Training was part of the agreement. I just wanted to let everybody know that.
I also sent an email to the full board that yes, CIC went down a second time late last week. It was a lot shorter duration, but they are also in works of getting a contract with a secondary internet company so that if the main line goes down, gets cut again, that there's an immediate backup. So
just like we did here.
Just like we did in the court system. And, you know, I've recommended to Brian, because he does have 2 administrators over there who, on a regular basis, have their employees' time approved. There are employees over there who are approving their time. And, you know, questions even within his own department, someone that could help him, because it is clearly getting done by some. And I did speak to LaSalle County, who I think their sheriff's department alone was around 100 people. I talked to Fulton County. Fulton County's only been doing the electronic timekeeping since March. They're not having the resistance from department heads because their board's passed a timekeeping policy, and you know, they're in the same boat. If the department head doesn't get the time in the timekeeping system, then whatever is not there gets paid on the next check. I don't like that, but we're not cutting, you know, checks 16, 15, whatever times. But, and I will say in LaSalle County, they pull their timekeeping at 10 o'clock on Monday morning of a payroll. And Fulton County does it. They're doing it. It's the exact same system. It's TCP feeding into CIC financial software. And up there, it's just a matter of this is enforced. And, you know, if a department head doesn't want to do it, then they appoint an administrator in their office. And, you know, the rules were the the time work gets put in the system. And that's how the employees are paid. Not receiving it. You know, I received 3 or 4 different pieces of paper for one employee, and then it's put on my office to decipher when did this person work. That's not fair. It's not right. And yes, I did say I wanted it out of my office if we can't pass a policy, because A, I don't have time. I mean, we're spending 16 plus hours a week between 2 of us trying to just figure out payroll. We don't pull it from timekeeping into CIC, and we can't pull it until management approval is there. So there either has to be board support, and you all are the managing body. The forensic auditor did say that our record keeping is woefully inadequate. And I will say under the fact sheet for the wage and hour division, state and federal law, one of the records to be kept is hours worked each day. That's not a schedule, it's actual hours worked. And we found out, if you looked at the payroll paper time sheets from right before we started the electronic timekeeping to the very first payroll in timekeeping, most time sheets were being turned in with a schedule. Not based on when they're here, and then you compare it to where there was actual, you know, time clock in and out, which was an accurate record. There was a lot of discrepancies, and, you know, we were still paying on schedules, not time worked. We have an obligation to have true and accurate record keeping. It's in the union contract as well that the employer will keep a accurate daily record, state and federal law.
Yeah, so I'm going to come back to the floor. One thing I would mention is 4 years ago when we went to, from prepaying payroll to paying in arrears of payroll, we didn't go far enough paying in arrears because it puts this type of crunch on everything. Payroll ends on Saturday midnight, and it's gonna be paid when, Thursday?
We have to have the phone to the bank Wednesday afternoon.
Wednesday afternoon, which gives the office effectively a short 72 hours. That's a full 24-hour day, so we have 16 hours, and if it takes 16 hours, we're taking 2 days complete of 2 employees just to get payroll done. So, being that if we use the full extent of labor law that explains that whatever the duration of your payroll period is also the duration of how far out in arrears you can go, then we wouldn't have quite these issues because we'd have more time between when the checks have to be cut and the end of payroll. Anyway, I just wanted to bring up a little bit of history there. I had Tad over here and Carol, so we'll go with Tad first.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's clear. So I've talked to the majority of the department heads. There's not a lack of willingness to use this, right? Everybody wants simplification. I don't think anybody has an issue with electronic timekeeping. But it's the nuances of the errors, the shutdowns, the problems that are causing the issues. There's not a lack of willingness. Clearly there's a lack of training, right? So knowledge, maybe that's a big part of it, but the knowledge and the training is not going to stop the system from going down. So there's no lack of willingness to do it. But it's got to be in cooperation and partnership. I don't think, taking elected officials to task in public meetings for their lack of willingness or their inability to do this is necessary. We don't need to be doing that. We're not going to work in partnership that way, and it was uncalled for to be doing it like that. They're willing to do it. They want to do it. They just want to do it right. And they want to make sure that people are getting paid accurately and on time, and that's not currently happening. So whether that's the root issue of training or system managers or whatever, we got to get to those root issues first before we go and automatically start withholding pay from people and kicking the can down the road until those issues are fixed. I just don't think it's necessarily fair to put a policy in place that will punish when we're arguing that we know that training is lackluster. So if they weren't provided the training, then why are we going to put the employees at risk of no pay just because the system isn't working the way that it should, or they don't necessarily know how to use it properly? I don't think that this policy allows for a whole lot of flexibility until those core issues are fixed.
So the core issues of service is in being fixed, is in current progress of being fixed, if not fixed.
But the pay, you're still going to withhold pay.
No, if they clock in.
There is an email that says if it's not in, it's not coming out. There's a specific email that says that.
So if it happened, I'm sure it's logical. I'll revert back to who actually dealt with it. But if it was within the last day, if an outage happened on Saturday night and it was not uploaded till Tuesday, I could see where their time could be withheld, but it would be still in the system, so it would be put on the next payroll. So long as they clocked in and out. Offline.
And we're okay with that. We're okay with holding pay because we have a system that isn't operating properly.
It's not withholding pay. It is the fact that because they're going to get it. They're going to get what they work. And if it's a system issue, then it's completely explainable. But that's why the efforts have been made to fix the system issue that are currently, like I said, currently underway, if not completed already. Like I said in the beginning, the system still holds the data to true and accurate times in and out offline. I'll go over here to Carol.
He pretty much said what I want to say, except maybe it's the software. I don't know. Maybe something needs to be changed with the software, especially for the sheriff's department, because it doesn't seem to be working. And Ruth had something she wanted to say, and I think you gathered her. So.
Well, everybody got to going, so I got it.
So.
Martha.
So the narrative of them not getting paid is it's just not accurate. The key is they clock in, they clock out. As has been said tonight and many, many times, if the employees get in, they check it, they approve it, they send it to their administrator, department head, whomever is tasked with approving it, they approve it, they're going to get paid. Julie's even talked to her responsibility to work, go in, double check her timesheet, approve it, send it to her supervisor. If she misses something or makes a mistake, it's not that she's not gonna get paid for it. It goes to the next pay period. If we pass a time, in the training part, we've already said twice tonight, there are 2 administrators at the Sheriff's Department that are utilizing the system just fine and having no issues. If there's an third administrator over there that's having some struggles, there are people within that department that are using it without issue. So I don't understand why they can't help each other out there. Why we're not utilizing Michael if he's said, hey, I'm happy to do this. We've been able to do this. As far as the outage, you can still clock in and clock out. It just won't upload until the system goes back online. As has been said, TPC knows this is a problem. They need to have a backup, so if the one system goes down, they have a backup. That's no different than what we've done here at our very own courthouse. We've put in a secondary system, so if one goes down, everything is back up in a matter of 30 seconds max, I believe we were told. So the narrative of not getting paid, and we want to talk about who's going to make who a public fodder about somebody. I mean, I'm just going to say practice what you preach.
So, any other questions, comments?
I think Ruth has something to say.
If I can make a couple things.
Fire away.
Ted actually hit the nail right on the head as far as one of the things I was going to say. The issue, and I've spoken with the department heads as well, the issue is not with the electronic timekeeping itself, it's with how it's implemented and how it's being presented to the department heads as far as troubleshooting and training and all these ongoing issues. For example, I have one employee. The idea is that we check it, once every day, once every couple days. Well, there are days when I'm in this courtroom from start to finish. I don't have time to do that every day. Even with that being done on a daily basis, that does not fix other issues that have been coming up within the Treasurer's Department. Specific example, I have one employee. Last pay period, there were miscalculations in her IMRF deductions. So she's having additional deductions taken in the following pay period. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't have those mistakes coming. And that's not something that can be put on the department heads. And I know that my department is not the only one that has seen those. I also want to express my concerns with the software being capable to handle the Sheriff's Department's needs. I understand that 2 of those categories are being able to function the way it's supposed to, but not everyone within the Sheriff's Department is on the same schedule. Some are on 8, some are on 12s. Some are comp time, some are paid comp time, some are holiday pay, some are worked holiday pay. There are so many different differentials that come into play, and I, myself, have not been trained on the system. I don't know what the system is capable of. So that seems to be some of the issues. The other main issue is just, the communication and the willingness to work through this problem. The sheriff and I did go to the treasurer's office. I asked if she had 10 minutes to meet with us, and immediately was being yelled at. So, you have to be kidding me. Everyone was there to see it. I walked in, I said, you have 10 minutes to meet with me. The sheriff is here with his documentation. And that's what happened.
All right, back to the floor.
But I'm done, yes. Thank you.
Call the vote. All in favor of timekeeping policy,
No, I
say
want
aye.
a roll call vote, please.
Roll call, please.
Wait a minute.
We're voting to approve the timekeeping policy. Do you want integrity? Do you want?
Don't say that. Don't say that. Carol shouldn't have said what she said, and you shouldn't have said that.
What's he saying?
No. The question is do you want a policy? A policy is better than no policy. A policy can be adjusted, amended, or whatever. No policy means that there is no expectation of anybody, board, department head, employee.
Heather works there, ask her.
And if you're voting no, it doesn't necessarily mean you're voting against a policy. You're voting against this policy or the timing of this policy for clarification.
Until it's taken
It's
care
not
of.
an
So
issue of
the-
integrity.
But policy, as a general rule, adds to the integral part.
100%.
Point of order, you called the vote.
I called the vote. All in favor, roll call, please.
Hamlin.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Bain.
No.
Cole.
No.
Edwards.
No.
Fernhaber.
Yes.
Hardy. Yes.
Keenan.
Yes.
Marks.
No.
Mayhaw.
Nope.
Nelson.
Yes.
Warman.
Yes.
Otis.
Yes.
Shuck.
Yeah.
Tate.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 12 ayes, 5 nays.
Thank you. Item 15 is discussion and vote to approve the amendment to credit card policy to include probation office and the circuit judge's office, or circuit judge's department upon recommendation of legislative committee. Jeremy makes the motion. Is there a second by Martha? Any discussion on this amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I can explain.
You have the floor.
If I remember the timeline chain of events correctly, I believe the probation department head met with the treasurer and had seen an increased need for an application for a county credit card per the credit card policy that the board passed last year. And inadvertently, by mistake, the probation department was not listed in the policy. It's I think it's in the final paragraph of page 1. It was almost every department was listed. There was an accidental omission there, and so I believe the probation department had sent the clerk an email, and she forwarded it on to me, and I got in touch with the treasurer, and we found 2 things. One, there was an accidental omission, and this is to fix that. But 2, that paragraph at the bottom of page 1 does say that the list of those who may apply for a county credit card includes, but is not limited to, that list. And so I don't think there was any delay in getting a card applied for, so this didn't hold anything up. This is merely a clerical fix to an accidental omission that left probation out. And it was also brought to my attention that the circuit judge's office could be included in here as well. So the bit about the circuit judge's office, I want to be clear, I put that on the agenda myself because that was brought to my attention too late to get it on the legislative agenda. The part about the probation, that was brought to my attention in plenty of time, and I put it on the agenda. And this passed the legislative committee unanimously. Again, it's just a clerical error to include a few accidental omissions.
Any other questions, comments for this amendment?
No, I appreciate it. I use it all the time. I use the county's credit card all the time. I think I'm not about the only one that's used it. So I just need, and think it would benefit my office to have our own for when we're traveling. And that way it takes the burden off the treasurer for filing the claims. I'll be able to submit the claims on the credit card myself. So I just would appreciate it if you're all.
Any questions, comments of the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 16, discussion and vote on resolution to approve the report of selection of election judges of 2024 through 2026. Lists were submitted by the central committees, committee chairs, and PCs, and can be viewed at the county clerk's office. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Motion by Martha. Is there a second? Don seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Lori.
Are these lists available? I asked for it and I didn't. Was it when was that done? Today. Okay, I wasn't able to check today. Could we have a minute to look at it? I wasn't able to check my calendar today.
Don, do you have a comment?
If there's someone on this list that is almost unable to serve anymore, what happens to them? Can they be removed, or how does that work?
If I have to publish a notice, it'll go in next Thursday's paper. If somebody has an objection to somebody, they have to file it in writing prior to my court date, which is going to be August 13th. You know, shortage of election judges is a statewide problem. It's not just a Shelby County problem. But unfortunately, until the legislator makes changes in Springfield, this is the battle that we're all going to continue to face. We have been working, my organization, the County Clerks and Recorders Association, has been working for 10 plus years probably to try to get vote sitters implemented. We could go from 27 polling places to maybe 6 throughout the county tops. That would greatly decrease the need for election judges, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, the state doesn't want to entertain that. So we are going to continue to try to recruit. It's very possible I'll come back with some more names, but we are in dire need of election judges. We will be doing a statewide required mailing August 7th for the permanent vote by mail list. And on that card, we will also be asking if anybody's interested in being an election judge. But actually, we had several precincts that didn't have any names listed. My staff has worked the last few days to try to recruit some judges just so we had 1 or 2 people per area. But if there's a problem in a particular precinct, then, you know, if people come and say, especially if the other judges come and say this is an issue, but the bad thing is November's going to be a very extremely busy election. I really need to have 5 judges per precinct. So hopefully, you know, we can get enough and have enough, and I don't want to have to close polling locations and disenfranchise voters by making them drive, but that, you know, that would be an emergent thing only. But unfortunately, when the names are submitted by PC and party chairs, it's kind of up to other people to make, you know, a concern or a complaint or whatever, because these judges are officers of the court. While they're commissioned on a political basis, they're there to just make sure that the election process is done legally and fairly. There's also poll watchers a lot of times in these various locations. They are paid for with taxpayers' funds to do this process, and we cannot administer elections without them. So this is just a critical situation throughout the state of Illinois, unfortunately, and I don't see it getting any better.
Is this something that?
No, we have to do this every 2 years. We commission judges. So, you know, some counties have a successful student program. We don't. I've contacted all of the high schools. The high schools don't have an interest in getting their kids involved. I get it. The political world's become a lot more tumultuous, and I get it. But the bottom line is we can't administer elections without election judges, and we have to have them from both parties. And yeah, it's going to be critical if we can't get enough people to serve in November. So.
Yeah. I just asked because this is the first time I've forgotten 2 years ago. So anyway, Lori, go ahead.
So are amendments allowed tonight, or is a form that has to be filed?
Those names were submitted by the party chairs, so you would have to submit, you know, something with the court. Like I said, my court date is the 13th, and it states in my publication that I'm going to do. So,
July 13th or August 13th?
August 13th.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
I won't say. We do have names of people that are on there that will be candidates. Those people cannot serve and will not be serving in November, but we are commissioning them. So if they are not elected, we can use them in future elections. So just to make that clear.
Question.
Clay.
Yeah, what kind of training, or how much time does it take to become an election judge?
We will actually do our training on September 19th. The training's a couple of hours long. We'll have 3 sessions. They'll have to take a test, that's required. And it's a lot. I mean, there's just a lot that they're required to do. It's a long day for not a lot of money, but it's vital. And like I said, until the state decides that they're going to make some changes, unfortunately, it's a battle that we all deal with every election.
So there is a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, roll call, please. I'm sorry, not roll call. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item 17 is committee reports. We've been through several committees. Is there any committees that have not been addressed that would like to speak? Mark?
I would like to defer to Lori to speak.
On finance?
Yeah, we agreed to change the policy in finance. I'll let her speak on the one that brought forward.
Okay. Lori,
I'll try to be loud enough. The question was raised regarding the statute 55 ILCS 5/3 and board meeting rules of order that were adopted in January of 23 by this board about the finance committee approving sheriff's bills. Public safety used to receive those bills, but in January of 23, it was agreed to follow the above statute as the sheriff is directed to submit all bills to the treasurer, and the treasurer is directed to pay them. There is nothing in the statute that gives the board the responsibility or obligation to review or approve the sheriff's bills. That department is the only department with the specific language regarding the process of bills to be paid, which is through the treasurer's office directly. So in regards to that, the January 12th, 23 board meeting minutes states, quote, "Finance committee will continue to review all bills except for health, sheriff, and road and bridge," end of quote. Shelby County Order of Business 15, Section 15, Part A regards finance to review and approve all county bills except those specifically outlined in Illinois state statute as not needing to go before the board, which includes the sheriff's department bills. It was mentioned that the review can be just that, a checks and balance review. The same matter came up in public safety previously, so finance committee would not be any different than public safety who voted in favor of following the aforementioned statute. So after much discussion and recognizing the need to honor the 55 ILCS statute and the Shelby County Board Order of Business Policy, Section 15A, and with respect to the roles and responsibilities of each elected official, both the sheriff, treasurer, and board members, that the Finance Committee would no longer interfere with the Sheriff's Department claims process, neither should the treasurer nor the clerk be expected to validate or approve the claims, but they should be paid according to the statute by the treasurer. The motion to follow the statute and board rules was approved unanimously, which showed unity. We came to the agreement, and it was a very annual agreement and emphasized efficiency as well by the entire Finance Committee. Along the lines that the Finance Committee does provide oversight and accountability to the county, it was noted on several claims that tax-exempt purchases should be made with the proper exemption documents, thus saving the county considerable amounts across various departments over the course of each year, keeping department funds available for those departments to use them as needed, and being fiscally responsible with funds. Committee requests that each department head ensure that each purchase uses the tax-exempt documents and county-issued credit cards as much as possible, and provide those documents to the respective accounts and employees or volunteers or whoever will be purchasing. So I think it was a good discussion. My 2 cents is I've been on that committee a couple of months, and it was a very productive, unified decision with good points. And I'm pleased to say that it's something that we can all agree on and we'll bring forward.
So does that actually change the rules of the board?
No, it was regarding the rules of the board that we had adopted in January 23, when we had our reorganizational meeting and adopted rules.
Right.
Finance was specifically spelled out what its roles and responsibilities were, and sheriff was specifically excluded because of the statute.
Oh, when we wrote the rules originally? That don't happen. Okay.
There was the initial rules that this seated board in December 22 established, and then there was an amendment, like the second meeting, but I don't remember what that amendment was.
Okay.
So if it wasn't the original, it was the second. But they
So as
the board
long
rules
as
do
it's
line up with the statute, yes.
already written in the rules and carry on.
Yes, that we would honor that.
Very good. Any other committee reports?
Just brief, I did it last week in public safety. I want to do it here as well. I want to thank Ms. Miller for stepping up and really helping with animal control and the partnership with the committee as well as the sheriff. We had a great meeting last week, and the communication being open and productive. I just appreciate that partnership, so thank you for that.
Committee reports. Okay, hearing none. And chairman updates. Just this afternoon, had quite a lengthy call with the auditors. We went through an overview of what's coming. They still had recommendations for some information to be finalized, and we have yet another meeting, phone call meeting to really iron down the final report. So I know the question will be raised, what's taking so long? And here again, I think I've said it before, I think. If I haven't, I'll say it now, is every time they get into final report mode of writing the footnotes and the findings, something else pops up. For example, an account that was not accounted for or unknown. So all those things cause them to go back and start, not over, but they have to continue to check and look. And so that'll all come through, and the auditors will explain that in their audit report, hopefully in the very, very near future. And other than that, back to committee reports. The question was asked about 911 communications. I do believe, see, this is July. In June, it was approved to start an expansion project to move repeaters around and add some repeaters. So that project is underway, and it is all currently funded through 911 where it should be funded. So I don't believe there's any additional funding that will be needed. So hopefully that would answer your questions. So other than that, moving on to chairman appointments, none are listed, and correspondences. I have none. In 21, ARPA fund update. There was an email sent out with the ARPA fund update, I believe, wasn't there? Yes, that is correct. Any questions about the ARPA fund update?
Just that it looks to me like there's $1,117,641 that's not committed to anything, if I'm reading this report correctly.
After the 1.25?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I'm reading it correctly and stuff, and to keep in mind that we've got till the end of December to earmark that money and stuff. Like I said, if I'm reading it correctly, that's what's left.
Anything in old business? Old business of the board? Hearing none, approval of the claims. Is there a motion to approve the claims? Tad makes a motion to approve the claims. Mark seconds the motion. Is there any discussion of approval of the claims? Mark?
I need to make an amendment to it.
Okay.
We pulled a couple of claims. We received one of those, or Jessica received one of those as an email today that did include the invoices, I think, if you look in your emails. And then I sent a text or an email to the Finance Committee concerning the second item, which is the $2,500 that we pay as a yearly fee. We had questions as to why. It's for office space. It is paid to the coroner for his office at home. And I expressed that is, the coroner's job is basically a 24/7 job. He's on call constantly. He receives calls constantly. It would be very, very tough for him to have an office here, answer people's questions. It can be any time of the day or night. So I talked with the coroner, and he said, you know, it would be much more expensive to try to have an office here, and very handy. So if one of the other Finance Committee members have a question on that side of it.
The only question I have is the 2,500 for the next 12 months or the last 12? Because if we're paying 25 in advance, and I always call it the Mack truck rule, but if something happens, is that then reimbursable back to the county and then goes to the person that might be filling that seat, or how does that work?
That I did not ask the date. I had went to that, and Brad had talked something else, and I did not allude back to what that date is, you know, to and from.
And does it make sense to pay it in an annual sum ahead of the fact, or should that be more of a monthly?
So
item?
Do you?
All these, no, I don't know. And all these questions really lend itself to the idea of a policy that says the county will pay X amount of dollars, take it or get an, take it for, your home office if that's what you want to do, or rent an office somewhere else, or if we have a building that had office space in it, we could put them a home office in there and we would do away with the expense. But these questions all lend itself to a policy that spells it out versus trying to accommodate an officer. Back to not dealing with the officer, dealing with the office. So, all good questions, all good discussion, but we're sitting at a contingency of paying $2,500 or not. You got the invoices?
Yes, we have the invoice. It was, that particular invoice was presented at our meeting for the $2,500. We didn't have a date on it, and we didn't really know the policy that come with it. And if you don't mind, Jessica, do you remember back when that was enacted, wasn't it previous even to his employment?
It was, yeah, it was.
Yeah. The policy or the procedure?
The procedure, the payment.
And ultimately, it goes back to the discretion of the department head because they're charging themselves. They are personally charging their department for the office space, so, yeah.
It's in his budget. It was actually a line item in his budget.
Right. Go ahead, Martha.
Well, Jessica, do you know, was that policy originally set up due to lack of space within the courthouse or space within a county-owned building? Because I think, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but you may have some space at the EMA office that could be used for an office?
I doubt it.
I just think
somebody
that,
said
because
that finance.
the prior coroner worked out of a business, a home business, and, it's just like Mark said, Brad's 24/7, he's got his records at home, he's got his computer at home, he's got all of his records and stuff. Not all coroners live here local, and it just might be a problem for him to try to be here, be there, trying to find what he needs. But this wasn't enacted probably, it was enacted it back when Brian was here. I don't remember the year exactly, but we've been paying that for some time.
I would like to say that I do have an extra computer in there and a little bit of space, but it's not exactly comfortable.
You're just thinking about the finance something in the
Yeah, Brad told me that, he says you'd be surprised how many calls he gets from various families with the information.
So,
All hours.
right, so back to the amendment to the bills.
I would like to include the $2,500 space rent and the motel
The visa.
expense. Oh, to answer another question, it is a county credit card.
Did you get the Board of Review Office Essentials bill that I sent over for like $93 and change for a stamp that they got?
I saw that.
I did not see
Yeah.
that. That'll be
I
today.
didn't see it. It was office
Yeah, Office Essentials.
essentials.
Yeah.
Yes, for my-
Okay, and please include the $93 bill, please.
Okay, so far we're at $2,500 for space rent.
The visa, I think, was like $282 and change.
Yes.
Maybe like $282.50, give or take a few cents. And like I said, the Office Essentials bill was less than it was like $94-ish.
For board review.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you made a motion to amend to include the $2,500 space rent, the Visa card for $382, and a $94 Office Essentials for board review. Is there a second to the motion? Tad seconds the motion. Any discussion?
I guess we would like to know whether the $2,500 is paid in advance or, you know, that's just, I don't object to paying it. I'd just like to know which way it is.
Time frame.
Yes.
We're paying for it.
Did you happen to look back?
Well, if it's...
We paid it last, because I looked back.
Okay.
We paid
Yeah,
it
we just
last
don't know if
July.
we're paying forward or we're paying in the
Right,
rears.
it looks like, and I think, it looks like we did pay it last July, we paid it July of 2023. So, I don't know if maybe, well, I'm just thinking out loud here, but maybe as we move forward, get it more in line with the fiscal year, so you'll know when,
Well,
or the end of the,
it is getting pretty close because now that we've bumped our fiscal year, rather than being paid in July, which is getting close to the end of the fiscal year, it could go to November, December, and still be, paying backwards.
I can ask for a report that will show since Brad started and what he's received. We'll be able to find if it's in the rears or paid for.
But I think a simple analysis is if it's in the budget from November 30th to December 1st, and it's paid in that calendar year, that's the calendar year that we're looking at. Because he wouldn't have had that in his budget prior to him taking office. So he would have had to pay that in the calendar year that he was in office. So everything is current. Calendar year, budget year, they mesh a little bit on the ends, but realistically, it's all current. So, without further analysis, that's my 10,000 foot view. So we have the space rent, the Visa card, Office Essentials, seconded motion on the floor. Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So going back to the original motion of approving the claims, we'll go back to the payment of the claims as amended. Any questions or comments on payments and claims as amended? Hearing none, roll call please.
Hanley?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Bain?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Farnhaber?
Yes.
Hardy?
Yes.
Keenan?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Mayhall?
Yes.
Nelson. Yes. Foreman.
Yes.
Otis.
Yes.
Shuck.
Yes.
Tate.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask you a question? You don't have any place on the agenda for new business?
No, it's all new business,
It is? Okay.
respectively. If it's on the agenda, it's on the agenda.
And
And
you
that
have
was,
old business and it used to be old business and new business, and we don't have any new business.
you never had any business.
I thought so.
I don't even want to try to describe it, but there's different formats in which we can do agendas or consent agendas and other things, so. But if there was other formats, you would have the business listed, but not in this one. So opening up the floor to public body comment, on the sign-up sheet, we do have 2 people on the sign-up sheet. Just real quick, there's 5 minutes, no yield of time. And so we'll start out public body comment with Sharon Alden.
My questions or my concerns are with the dive team. I don't know if the policies were finally written so that all the procedures are in place, and how do they decide what calls they get to go out on or don't go out on. I'm under the assumption the dive team is for emergencies, not for day in, day out calls, although emergencies can happen daily. But on Saturday, June 22nd, the dive team was out on the lake. There were 2 people in the boat. I find out that they're there because somebody's anchor was stuck in the lake. I don't consider that an emergency. And then do we have a mutual aid agreement with Clark County? Because they were called in the following week down to Robinson, Illinois. And I don't know if we have a mutual aid agreement with them or not. And then now I find out that they're there to be a backup as they tow boats in. You know, and I guess I don't get why all of a sudden these kind of things are taking place. You know, and if they get hurt, you know, I guess who's going to pay for that? If they're going out to loosen somebody's anchor, you know, and they get hurt, I guess I don't get why the county people should pay for the dive team to go out because somebody's anchor is stuck. Do like everybody else. You go back and forth, and if you can't loosen it, you lose the anchor. I just don't get it. And, you know, as a taxpayer, I think they're important. I think they're there for emergencies. I don't think they're there to do that kind of thing. And I think we've got to make sure we have mutual aid agreements for the counties that they're going to if they're not called for. And how many people, and then I guess a question I would have, when they do go out, I assume there's got to be 3 or 4 people in the boat for when the divers go down, but I don't know that. I know Austin's back there. He can maybe answer that question.
Just, he can address that. He can address that in a public body comment if he wants to. Just keep comments.
Okay.
I don't want to start dialogue.
Okay, yeah, you're right, you're right. And I guess that, I see them being used for things that to me are not emergency type calls they should be on. And that's our tax dollars. We all talk about what we're paying for, not paying for. We're paying every time they go out. I know they're a volunteer team, and I think that's great, but we do pay for the boats, for the, you know, for all their equipment, for all that, every time they go out.
Okay, thank you. Up next is Lisa Best.
That's
me here.
Go ahead.
Through most of this meeting, I was sitting in that spot right over there. When Ruth Woolery was asked her opinion on she was talking about the sheriff and her going into Erica's office and asking for 10 minutes of their time and being greeted not in a friendly manner. She said they were yelled at. I know it's hard to hear in here, but I heard very clearly that Erica Fernhaber called our state's attorney a liar.
I heard it too.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone in this room knows that that happened. That's all.
Okay, those were the only two listed on the sign-up sheet. I'd like to open the floor up for public body comment. Public body comment. Go ahead.
Just a couple comments. The last 24 hours have been really tragic. Terrible things have happened in our county. I feel terribly. There's a lot of us that are related either closely or distantly to the family members, and our hearts go out to them. I think last night is an example of why it's so absolutely vital that we make sure that we do everything we can to make sure we have plenty of deputies. They're paid well so they stay. Because I believe one of the first responders from the Sheriff's Department was a young man who was actually off yesterday. And he wasn't thinking about a time clock when he got the call. The rescue squad wasn't thinking about the time clock when they got the call. The Sheriff's Department and our local fire departments, our ambulance services, some of them are volunteering, some of them are paid. But in the end, we need to do everything we can to facilitate the job that they do. They're not like the highway department where the guys work 7 to 3:30. They take 20 minutes or half an hour, whatever it is, for lunch. That's an easy clock in and clock out. When you work in a hospital or in a factory, you clock in, clock out, you get 20 minutes to your break, you clock in, clock out for lunch, etc. It's real simple. When you add details like they deal with on a daily basis, they're not worried about the clock, and frankly, I don't want to worry about the clock. I want them to get in the car and go. And I think right now we have software that works for a lot of departments, but it appears that it's not working for that department. And I believe the only way to make that work is for the sheriff to sit down with that person and get that squared away. And if it doesn't work, we need to find something that works for him. Because none of our deputies, none of our correctional officers, none of the girls in the office should not be getting paid ever. I'm not going to direct this at anybody specifically. When I hear, if I owned a business and I heard that the individual that was responsible for payment of my employees was shaking their head and acting like everybody's lying, I would be furious. Because I would say to them, if it was my job, I would say, I am not aware of that. Have them call me first thing in the morning. Have them come in, we'll figure this out. That's all it needs to happen. I mean, it's not that hard. Bring them in, let's figure out what happened. It could be a bank issue. It could be something to do with the fiber. We've had problems with the internet before. Fine, fix it. Facilitate that fixing. Last week, we had a really good public safety meeting. I was really pleased to see our administrator come in from animal control. She gave a really good representation of the difference between the two trucks. I encourage everybody to go down to animal control and look at the truck. There's a few things that aren't going to work. The 2012 has got a lot more options for them. Put some tires on it and use it. Because at this point, we need a truck. Because there is no way that those side boxes, you're going to get a dog bigger than probably 35 pounds in there. And then notoriously, the ones that Brad's picking up are big. And they're not happy. And they don't want to be put in the truck. And you've got to put the tailgate down, open the box, get the dog crammed in there. They don't want to go. It's dangerous for Brad. The side boxes are dangerous. He actually has to lift up and over the side of the bed. And it doesn't actually seal the bed from the elements either. It doesn't sit on the box or on the bed sides and actually fold over. There's actually just water and feces and stuff running down underneath the box. So it's not good for the truck bed. As far as the state's attorney situation, the audit, by statute, I believe it says we have to do it. And I think we have 74,000 reasons, 12,500 reasons, and a few more thousand reasons that weren't accounted for why we should do an audit. audit, because those are our taxpayer dollars. And it's not about liking it. There's no angle. It's our taxpayer dollars and we want it dealt with. We want to know that a firm not tied up with our former state's attorney is doing an audit that we feel is completely unbiased. It's not fair to us to have us all pay for that when they're late on 2 audits and they've been friends before. That's a problem. Because I don't think anybody would want my best friend to do the audit of my office if I was state's attorney. I think they would think that was a conflict. So.
Public body comment. Public body comment?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I have to find my place because I had to rewrite this multiple times. So in everything going on locally, it's my opinion that being chief is blindly following the labels placed on political parties for years and years later and failing to recognize the division that has come between it. Though many things don't come about with intent to abuse, eventually all things are abused. There is and always will be those who abuse it for other purposes, ones who have the knowledge and the abilities and the will to abuse for good, to abuse good for bad, to put their wants and desires above the rest, who manipulate to society who or what they are, with words but not good actions. We were told not to turn the other cheek, but shamed if we questioned things. The problem wasn't really one political title. It was the greed to be richer, the corporate blue collar, the down, all the way down to the lower officials, whether public officials, attorneys, and others with knowledge of the system to do good and choosing the loopholes for the wrongs despite their oath, their duties, despite their neighbors, regardless of their so-called Christianity, and by complete disregard to the law and disrespect of others' liberty and freedom. When law is used for abuse, coercion, manipulation, shame on others, for gain of money, it's not really a legal loophole. Though it seems as such, it's completely illegal and it makes them a coward and a fraud. The middle and lower class Americans, they're oppressed and they're restricted and even their full liberty. If you have our money, you would think that we would at least have our liberty. But we can't until society sees that it's corporate greed and the wrongs of bad people that all trickles down to our small communities. We're so divided that we can't stand united and recognize those dividing us are the problem. That's what I call being a blind sheep. It's in all of our history. Being sheep is blindly trusting and voting based on a political party, regardless if you know them. We should trust our neighbors before we trust a political party or even a politician or a corporation. Our willingness to naively divide further rather than stand with our neighbors to demand change is the first problem that we have to correct. You can't really say it's one party over the other. Communication is key to working together. Leadership is key. Even just simply agreeing to coexist in the same community that we have the same right to without ill intent towards others. When a local politician's daughter speaks out about him strongly on what kind of man he might be, that's your little girl. She should look up to you for deep love and support in all of your life, and you should be crushed if she doesn't. When we stand so hard to our political views that it divides us more than just our communities, but even worse, our families, and we lose our children, what is life even worth anymore? God told us to bring others to him, but he never said to force them. We all know that forced beliefs don't work anyways. Men shouldn't be yelling at women, and men should be outraged seeing that locally. We've turned the cheek on things like this for quite some time. The contradictions of society that we're blind to and that we don't see is all a part of the problem. An example, a guy can be a young single mother, and I'm shamed for that by society. But had I chose to have an abortion, I would still have been shamed by society. I never considered that option, but you can rest assured that I'm right and would have been shamed. Being man or woman means nothing anymore because we don't really value their real strengths and values. When you can put politics and money and name and title and words without good actions above all else, then what purpose do we really have? We have to take away the value, or if we take away the value of man and woman, we lose the value of family. And if we lose the value of family any further, what do we really have? I will never be unwilling to repair where I fail and do better for my children. I will always choose my children above money. I will always love them endlessly, regardless of the choices that they make. I will push them in the right direction to strive for them to have better than I ever imagined for myself, and to teach them the importance of things above money and title. Family and God, love, friendship, our community, helping others, true intentional happiness, and intentional time. No amount of money will ever get back your time. It won't create genuine, long-lasting happiness. No title will ever fulfill your heart remotely near things that I've listed. Can I have a few more minutes? Is that okay?
No. I'll give you 30 seconds. Go ahead.
You are not holding your oath if you're restricting others' liberties and constitutional rights, or attempting to shame their name with assumptions when you mislead the truth on them and ramble on to sheep and liberals. Make no mistake, Bobby, I am no sheep. I stand for our Constitution and our liberties, and I don't take kindly to your words on Facebook. It's not a man, it's not a leader, and it's not deserved from our county chairman. You're the chairman of 20,000 people, for the entire community, not just for the board. As a public official, you use your duty and your knowledge from it for personal intent to harm others. And that harm could go further than just our reputations on an assumption that you made, and it could go as far as harm, not just to us, but to our children and our family and our friends. It's not acceptable as a leader. You risk the whole county having 5 lawsuits if I have my number right there. But even more when you risk their safety and everything that they would deal with because of it.
I give you 30 seconds. Plus some. Public body comment. Tricia.
Yeah, Bobby, I talked to him at least once in that other day, but the came in.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. So the truck came in at Leach Wilson, they notified you the correct truck was here, you didn't even acknowledge it. You didn't do anything. So who decided to buy the wrong truck? Did you decide or did Cody decide? So we got another problem here. Kirk Allen destroyed some of our best friends for a year and a half in Atlanta, Illinois. He accused him of stealing from the church. He accused him of stealing from the library. This guy wouldn't steal anything if you give him $1 million. Why do you keep paying attention to this guy? He can't prove anything he said. He can't prove we can't find him. He can't prove anyone's guilty. Erica talks about crime and corruption, and Kirk has accused people of crime and corruption in the past. There's no evidence. There's no convictions. So there is no crime and corruption. Will you ever acknowledge that fact? Why do you pay attention to it? And what for? He can't prove we can't farm. He can't prove anything. He's never proven anything since he's been here. Erica can't prove anyone guilty of anything. She gets up here and yells crime and corruption in Shelby County, and the courts are corrupt, the judicial system's corrupt. What are their names? Who's corrupt? Who's guilty? Who was convicted? I don't get it. Who decided to buy the wrong truck? You knew the right truck. We had $180,000 in the animal control fund at that time, and we can't buy a truck. Is our idea of just accumulating money to put it into bank? Is that what our goal is? We've accumulated over $9 million since 2019 in our county funds according to the annual report. So we don't have any money. We've got $20 million. We got another $7.5 million coming in the next year. That's $27.5 million. Why don't we do things to help the county? Why don't we do things to help the animal control? Why don't we do things to help the dive team? Why don't we do things to help animals? Is there some vendetta against helping people? I don't get it.
Didn't they get a new truck? I don't know, but they got a new truck.
Tricia, go ahead.
Okay. Really tough to talk tonight. We had a tough time in our community, and I'm sorry and prayers are with everybody that was impacted by that. Took several calls. It was even hard to put two sentences together today. I have a 22-year-old son that's an officer. I didn't know if he was out there last night. I knew that he picked up a shift to work. And I could say I'm proud of him. No 22-year-old should have to see that they choose to do that and help us and our community. I prayed last night. I prayed today for words to say tonight. Sometimes they don't come. I'm sorry for your family, Bobby. This is why it's so important that we don't feed our neighbors to the dogs. Because tragedy takes place. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. And you'll try to want to make us think that they're guilty of horrible, terrible things. I've been called all kinds of names, whoops, liberals. I don't even really care anymore. Call me what you want. Doesn't matter. What matters is our time, what we do with it, how we treat people. We may be family one day this morning. And I gotta say, I read the post that put out. I shook my head, it was hard, typical. I'm a constituent. You're supposed to work for me. I'm the employer. I am oversight. You may not like the oversight, but that's what it is. We elect you, we're the employers. You came after your employer. You gavelled the state's attorney. Jeremy gavelled the sheriff. For political gain? Is this all for votes? That we have to hurt our neighbors? That we use an outside agency? Send them stuff? Let's make them look bad so they don't want to run for office again, and then let's get our people in there. It's not right. And I don't know what some of you have gotten into, but I've done a lot of research. A lot of research. And if you're into something you shouldn't be, you can always get out. You can always turn it around. And if you're afraid of someone, stop being afraid and go to someone. Because I was in that position once. And I think some of you have gotten in too deep and you can't get out. There's ways out. Not hurting each other. By standing up and doing the right thing. My question is, there's no time clocks. At the health department, are they not going to get paid if they don't clock in? The sheriff's department says no. If they don't clock out, or they clock in, are they not going to get paid? Yeah, the state's attorney was saying she went with the sheriff into the treasurer's office and wasn't treated very well. We heard another board member that was called an obscene name. This isn't just one person saying this. This is multiple people that are saying that that is how she's reacting to them. That's not professional. Can anyone sit here and say that's professional behavior? Is that what you want for your treasure? Community's important. People are important. How you treat people is important. I still pray for you, Mr. Orr, even though you've said some really bad things, because you gotta forgive. That's what we're taught. And one day I hope we are family. I really do. But I hope your behavior changes, because what you did was not professional. She was 100% correct. I am your employer, and if you go after your employer, you don't have a job very long. And I think you need to remember that. And I'd like everybody here in this room to pray for the families that are going through what they're going through, and for that truck driver. My husband drives a truck. He said, I know how horrible it is all for all those families, but he also knows how horrible it is for that driver. We need to pray for him. And we need to try to get all this animosity to stop. Somehow, some way it needs to stop. Thank you.
We'll just count up. Public body comment. Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't going to speak tonight, but after listening to somebody speak on the social media thing, I feel like I need to say something. I didn't want to have to say anything to you tonight because I know what the community is going through, and I feel for all of you guys. But watching these guys talk about your Facebook post where you called out citizens, fellow board members, you called Jessica, our county clerk, corrupt on there. You called the sheriff corrupt. Like, you called them out on there. Do you feel bad for doing that? Do you feel like you owe them an apology? I don't see the sheriff getting on and bashing any board members. I don't see Jessica getting on bashing board members. You set in a position, you should be higher than that. Not what all these citizens here are putting on Facebook. You're in a spot where you shouldn't do that. And then you have two board members, Jeremy and Martha, loving and sharing your post, that they think all of these citizens and your fellow board members and incoming board members and your county clerk and your sheriff that you should be working with, and you put on Facebook that they're all corrupt. Do you think you owe them an apology? Because I sure think you do. I mean, what any of us put on Facebook, we don't sit in a position you do. I don't see any of the board members putting stuff on Facebook about citizens, fellow board members, besides you, Martha, and Jeremy. You are the only three that turn to Facebook to bash people. Because you see people doing it to you, you're above them. Julie's put up with it for months. She don't take to Facebook to bash people. Teresa's put up with it for months. She don't go to Facebook to bash people. But you three choose to do that. You were the chairman. That we expect more out of you when it comes to something like that. You've called me out on Facebook. I really don't care. I don't. These guys, it bothers. Obviously, because they brought it up to you. If you don't want to apologize to the citizens, you definitely owe your county clerk and your sheriff an apology. That was wrong on so many levels to put them on Facebook like that. And if you don't apologize, that's up to you. That right there shows how spineless you really are. I'm done.
Go ahead.
I had a meeting quite a while ago, and I've attended so many of these, like, they all run together. Jeremy mentioned that in a public comment, that if a new information or a new perspective became available, that you could, after the public comment is concluded, somebody could motion to reconsider an earlier agenda item or amend an earlier agenda item. And it just, I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe you haven't considered an option. Tad did a very good job explaining that the time clock is going down right now. There's all these issues that they're working on. And I tend to believe people when a company says, we know we got issues, we know we got problems, our fiber got cut, this, that, we're working on it, we're getting a redundancy, we're getting a backup. That's great. You say we need a timekeeping policy. They come back to, we need training. The state's attorney admits that, and I'm not putting you on the spot, I'm sorry, but she says, I'm not even trained on it, you know, and I think we need to be in a position of strength. And I think you can reconsider that earlier motion by amending it to say that paper copies can be accepted, just like you did for the dive team when you did a resolution and you said with current command structure for 60 days or 90 days, however long you want to set. I mean, that's all up to you guys. You guys are the ones in charge. But I think you want to give this company some time to fix their stuff. You want to give the people that are working for this county, the first responders and that stuff, the state's attorney even maybe, some ability to get some training instead of just this effective immediately, this is how it works so you don't get paid. I think all this speech about community and about us being friends and neighbors to each other, I mean, you want accountability, you want time punches that you can audit and everything, and I think that's great. I think Tad says nobody doesn't want it. But I think maybe that motion, and that's up to you guys, but I think maybe somebody should put that on the floor when the public comments conclude.
Public body comment. Public body comment. Public body comment. Teresa.
The last legislative meeting that we were at that was really not a very good meeting for anybody to watch what went on in that meeting. I have two things. The chairman of that committee did not have control of that meeting, and shame on him because of all that went on and people saw it. When you're sitting in that position and you're in charge of a meeting, you have control over it. That's what a chairman is supposed to do. And it did not happen in that meeting. Anybody that watched it could see that that did not happen. But at the end of that meeting, I think it was said that the auditors were to have a preliminary report last Friday. And I've read things now that the treasurer's not in charge of the audit, the board is in charge of the audit. I am on the board, and I sent you another email that you did not respond to ask you if you got that report and stuff, because if you got a report, I think that it should go to the entire board. If we're responsible for an audit, I think we're entitled to see what they're saying. And
I did. I sent you an email back with their response.
no, that was before this last meeting for legislation.
Right.
No, you did not send me one back. No, you
Before
sent me one.
meeting, but not.
The legislative meeting, a week ago Tuesday, Erica said that last Friday that they had said that they were going to have a preliminary report on the audit. And after that, I think on Sunday evening, I sent you an email. I back carboned myself on my personal one. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay. But you didn't respond because I asked if you got a response from the auditors, because I guess we, as the board, are responsible for the audit.
And you'll know exactly, everybody will know exactly when we get the draft.
Well, you said you had a conversation with them.
They don't have a draft.
But you didn't put out anything to the board that said, I had a conversation and this is what I was told.
My sincerest apologies. It was an hour and 30-minute conversation this afternoon in lieu of all the rest of the conversations I've had today.
I understand.
On the way here.
I understand
so
that.
My sincerest apologies for not keeping you up to date. But right now, I'm telling you, there is not a draft, and that is the update.
I'm just saying it was announced in that meeting that we would have something last Friday. I didn't ask, it was just said. So that's why I sent you an email.
Right. Okay. Public body comment? Go ahead.
So I started coming to meetings about a year ago. Started talking at that time about respect and the lack of respect. And that's really why I continued to come and got involved, and I still see the lack of respect. I saw it shown to our state's attorney a couple times tonight. I saw it shown to the sheriff the other night in a meeting. I see it when I drive down Highline Drive and see that piece of junk sitting down there after Brad sat here and begged for the right truck. Just a lack of respect. He knows the job. We had the truck bought that he needed. I see it when I show up for court and Teresa Bang and Chris Bang are drugged in front of, you know, what a deal that is. What a joke. You know, I see it when a couple charity workers from Edgar County attack private citizens, and we got people in this room giving that a thumbs up. Private citizens being attacked. So that lack of respect is still abound. I felt sorry for our state's attorney tonight and the way she was treated. And I think it's time that we treat our neighbors, treat our fellow board members, treat the public with the respect they deserve, our county workers, our deputies. It's past time. So that's all I got.
Public body comment? Public body comment? Public body comment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Jeremy made the motion to adjourn, second by Lori. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.
Other than nobody. We don't have a paper.
You just told me you're next time. Why are you